So, since the LG V30 review is long overdue, I actually wanted to make it a little bit more compact because at this point in time no one wants to watch a 20-minute review of a device that has come out already way more than half a year ago. But then I decided I just can't make a proper review and make it short, so it is what it is. But one thing that I also want to mention is this. Later on, and a few things throughout could sound a little bit naggy, and I'm complaining a little bit more than I should. But this is if you just look at subjectively from my perspective at this phone. Just the normal daily use experience actually shows a little bit of a different picture and is way better. So don't take the smaller naggings too hard. So let's get into the design first and actually compare it with something very similar priced by now, the OnePlus 5T, and you will see of how much shorter the LG V30 is, and that is after all impressive. Yes, it's a little bit thicker, but therefore it's also a little bit more narrow. One thing though that I still would have wished, same as on the LG G6 last year, that they would have had this design on the front, kinda, because this way it gets narrower towards the front, back, and then the device feels narrow in general. This way, it just feels a little bit wider than it is, but as you have seen, after all, it still is quite narrow and everything else. Of course, we have the back, similar to the LG G6, where I got so many complaints about. I still think it feels a little bit hollow and shallow, and therefore the whole device just feels a little bit too lightweight. But the build quality is fine, besides maybe one thing, because I think the transition from the back to the sides is a little bit rough. I would have wished for this to be smoother. But like I said, this is the smaller necking because the overall in-hand feel is very nice. It just feels a little bit lightweight. I would wish for some more premium heft. The fingerprint reader, well, the same thing about as on the LG G6. You can't open it if the sensors are blocked. So if you take it out of your pocket, you have to wait until it's actually out so the sensor isn't blocked, and then you can move your finger on it. Then it's still not the very fastest one, as you can see here with the animation and so on. It is okay. Because let's turn on the screen and unlock it, which is usually not a thing, and this is actually something that I really am disappointed by. There is no side-mounted fingerprint power button. That would have been so much more helpful because it's so inconvenient, because I don't know how many times I wanted to press here. Okay, you will get used to that for sure, but it's not the very best fingerprint reader, and I just don't like the fact that if it's blocked, you can't just do anything. Of course, the cameras, they do protrude just a little bit, same as also the rest, though, as you can see here with the laser focus and the LEDs. Those are flat, though. Then, and the screen turned on, we have the headphone jack, yes, the infamous one, and then microphone, volume rocker. Yeah, not my favorite position, but it gets the job done. Then we have the USB Type-C and the speaker, microphone, notification LED, and everything else is on the front. As you can see here, very small bezels though, and I really like these. As you can, this is actually, I don't have something full screen though. Okay, as you can see, small bezel at the top, and still you don't really even see that, a small bezel on the bottom. On the sides they could have been a little bit narrower, but most phones with 2x1 for some reason don't get that done by now. But overall it feels a little bit lightweight, but the design feels nice, especially the really nice little curve here, because there is a smooth little bit of a 2.5D glass that makes it just make it more fluid. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about one thing, the display. It got so much flack for, and as you can see I have some more. That's something that the phone can't do anything about, but the problem is this: viewing angles. That's pretty much the only thing. I've heard about people that say the display isn't uniform and on grayscale it has some issues and so on. My unit doesn't have it. My lighting is fine, my uniformity is fine, everything is fine. It's just the viewing angles. But usually you look at it like this. Still, for a flagship display I would have wished for more stable viewing angles, but in normal use that didn't really bother me. You can change the resolution, the display size, obviously, but not the smallest width. So you can't just change the DPI, which is weird. I don't get why. Blue light filter, of course, is available, and screen color, which is actually very nice because you can change between normal, best for movies, photos, and also custom. I actually was fine with normal, so let's get into those. I measured 720 lux, which I just think can't be right. Some AMOLED displays just kind of fool my lux meter, which, because it's bright, okay enough, but it's not crazy bright. I've seen brighter displays actually that show me lower values, so not sure what that is about. Colors though are actually nice, okay. AMOLED blacks obviously, and the rest is fine. So I'm actually gonna say still, even though I would kind of want to like to give it 4.5 stars, I will still give it 5 stars, because in normal daily use this display is still very nice. Yes, due to the pentile matrix, which is just has to be. It's actually, for a Quad HD display, not nearly as sharp as some of the Quad HD IPS displays. But what about the speaker? and I'm actually completely gonna break this off for one reason. This belongs on a $100 phone, but not on a $500, $600, $700 flagship phone. It is just absolutely, let me actually lower the brightness a little bit, not good enough. It sounds very tinny, shallow, kind of flat, also a little bit harsh. Everything but high quality. The volume is actually okay. It's a little bit on the louder side compared to some of the average ones, but I am not happy with the sound. When it comes to the headphone jack, something I can't show because you have to unplug it, plug it in. But we have, of course, the HiFi DAC. And here is one thing that I have to say about that. Everything praises the amp and DAC combo, especially due to the low impedance mode or the high impedance mode. This is my issue. The DAC, super clean, great quality, everything is fine. And if you have a high impedance headphone, everything is also fine. Actually, I would have wished for a little bit more volume because even with my Sennheiser HD600, which have a high impedance of 300 ohms, I can crank up the whole volume at 100%. And I would wish for it to be louder. So I would even wish for more amp. For most people it will be fine. But the issue with this high impedance mode is it doesn't work with low impedance headphones. Now, for example, if I want to try to use my planar magnetic with just maybe like 50 ohms, which definitely doesn't use the high impedance mode, I have not nearly enough volume. And I don't get why any other reviewer didn't really mention that. Because there are tricks that you have to kind of have removable cables on your headphones and then you can kind of trick it and force it into high impedance mode. But normally it's not possible, and I don't get why they kind of have the best feature with this high impedance mode that simply does not work on low impedance headphones that would still need it even though they are lower impedance. So not happy about that. Yes, besides everything, it is obviously the best headphone jack on the market. It's the cleanest one, it's the loudest one. If properly set into everything, it sounds great, absolutely. But this is weird. What's not weird is the performance, because that one is actually great. So let's kill all apps, start them, and we will see that they launch very nicely. It's not crazy fast, insanely fast, but as you can see, everything works fine. And I'm not gonna go too much into the software, the performance, because by now we know the 835 performs great, and it does absolutely so in this phone. It's at least right in the middle of all the other 845 ones. Actually, one of the better ones, because it's very smooth, pretty much no slowdowns, and everything, multitasking, all is top. Now, battery. A full charge takes 1 hour and 40, which for some reason feels actually a little bit longer than I would have expected, but this is still fine. Now, highlight here is absolutely the battery life, and I know I'm not quite sure why, but for some reason also on the LG V6 and for some reason in general, LG devices work better for me, and I don't get why, because I got 7.5 hours of mobile data. I'm actually a little bit reserved here because I think I would have been even able to get 8 hours, but to keep it to a little bit of a minimum, let's say 7.5 hours. That is amazing for a flagship, and I actually don't get how they achieved that, because with the battery size and the displays and everything, it should be very close to something like the OnePlus 5, but it gets like at least 1.5 hours more, and I don't get at all why. Standby drain actually on mobile data was very good, but when I had it at home on Wi-Fi with mobile data still enabled, actually it wasn't that great. It was like 0.5% power. So I actually managed 6 full hours, and I would have been able to get maybe 6.5 hours over 2 days in mixed use, 2 full days. But on Wi-Fi, I would say even 9 to 10 hours are possible. So the flagship was best battery, maybe along with some of the Mate phones, but absolutely great. Now, software, also something that I don't really want to waste much time on, because this is something that you can see on so many other reviews already. Design actually is not my favorite because it looks a little bit kind of empty, but it gets the job done. The UI enables everything. You can rearrange the buttons, which is very important for me, and the normal stuff you have a floating bar, for example, with some extra things, home screen, display. I'm really not good in explaining these kind of things, but actually am okay with the software, and I don't really get why so many people have complained about it. Updates are usually okay as well. Time, as long as you get them, is also fine. So let's get into the behemoth here, the camera, especially with the Pro mode. But yeah, let's just see, because yeah, we have the Pro mode obviously and the manual mode. And it is maybe the most capable phone, as you can see here, and it's great for creators. I absolutely get that, with the landscape, which you can actually even change right in the video with a smooth transition. Absolutely great. You can do so much stuff. As you can see, you can also change the bit rate, which you can, for some reason, I think so, do in manual mode, because I did not get that option. Because let's actually try this, change the mode, go to order, And then, for example, the bitrate is gone. So that's a little bit weird, because why not give me this option? But otherwise, I actually don't want to get too much into it. So tons of modes. It works fine, because what I like is, for example, if you go to the cam, you can just toggle the flash and such. You don't have to go through menus. So super capable software. But what about the actual qualities? Now let's check those. And I'm just gonna say it right out from the start, I'm not a fan of the front-facing cam, because this is just about okay, I would say. This is nothing special. And for some reason, actually, as you can see here, why does the wide-angle cam on the front, or whatever it does in that mode, appear to be so much brighter and actually sharper? I don't get it. I absolutely don't get it, because there are no two cams on the front, but still wide seems better. Unless I'm kind of missing a camera that I just don't see. But selfie game is not good. It's okay. Actually subpar for a flagship. And indoors it completely breaks down, because as you can see now it gets blurry, grainy, and especially lower light. No. This is one of, I would say, maybe the worst selfie cam on a flagship, on a current one. Low light capabilities itself are okay, as you can see here with the flash, or without, and now with, it's fine. Indoors, yes, but it's also not one of the better ones. There are definitely better flagships, because this camera, also I have to say, I mostly judge cameras in the auto mode, which I will only show here. Yes, I know there are tons, and this is what this phone was made for manual use, but still, shots are great, because autofocus was very good. Not quite on an S9 level, but shutter times are great. It was very reliable, and nice pictures, because these actually have been done in shade, so with little light. Actually more low light than anything, because it was completely in the shadow. In light, as you can see here, now also with the wide angle cam. For some reason, though, as you can see, this now looks quite pale, more natural, and the wide angle cam seems to boost colors actually. I actually like that, but it's weird that they are just not the same. But otherwise, sharp, great pictures overall. Still, this is an absolute flagship camera for sure, even if you're using it in auto mode, because some people say it's not quite as good in auto mode as it is in manual. Yeah, but still great in auto mode. And then even better, which is nice to see, in manual mode. So I'm not gonna complain about anything here. Now let's check the videos. Here we, for example, have a video in 4K. A little bit of a lower bitrate. I would have therefore wished for a little bit of a higher bitrate in auto mode, but autofocus works fine. Picture looks great. There is a little bit of a motion blur due to just being 30 frames, but all good. The autofocus on videos sometimes was a little bit flaky, but the quality is still great. As you can see here, it does a great job, absolutely. Nice. Let's quickly go through the rest. 1080p 60 is also there, as you can see. The bitrate here seems better since, yeah, as you can see, less artifacting, which is still visible on 4K. The autofocus seemed a little bit different, a little bit more jumpy, but also fine. Let's just get to front facing. Not a fan of that. This video has nothing to do on a flagship camera. This is not sharp enough. It's nothing. And once again, actually, the wide angle mode seems to be better, because the crop on the normal one is actually too close. Because here I can have my hand normally wide, and then I can get my hand and my face on the screen, but yeah, otherwise it's not the thing. Microphone though, quality was fine. I didn't really show indoors because I just don't want to drag this video any longer, because 40 minutes is actually still quite okay, but the camera, still great. Now let's get into the conclusion already. Now priced at around, at least in Europe here, I can say about other prices, around 600 euros, but I've heard already sometimes on eBay or so you can get it for 500 because of contracts and so on. And yes, maybe if I would have reviewed it right when it came out for 750 or something like that, I would have been a little bit more hesitant. And this is what I said about the actual quality, because the daily experience with this phone was very nice, and the 2 weeks that I had it here and 1 day for a daily driver, I actually enjoyed this phone a lot. And just when I actually made my rating and checked all the specifics categories, I saw actually we don't have too many 5 stars, and it's not getting up too great, especially some things like, for example, the speaker and so on. But only then it actually looks not to be as great, especially if you would directly compare with something like an S9, you would see that it gets at least like half, if not a star more in pretty much every category. But this is something that doesn't really translate in normal daily use, because overall it still does an absolutely fine job. And I really liked what I've seen, because the actual experience was fine. And I just want to check something. Things that I just didn't like so much had the non-side mounted power button, then the viewing angles on the selfie cam, though the rest is absolutely nice. And I really like this phone, especially for at 500. If you can get it for that price, I can easily recommend it now. It's a hard competitor to the OnePlus 5T, but very, very different, and that's why I don't even want to compare it. If you want to know a little bit more about in comparison with any specific phones, just let me know in the comments. But it's not perfect, and it has some weird things going on. But if the capabilities of the camera and the headphone jack are very important for you, don't really bother too much about the screen. That was a little bit too much hype. At least maybe now in the new badges, it's just the viewing angles. The rest is fine. In and feel is great. Speaker is poor, just like the selfie cam. So the main two deal breakers would be the selfie cam and the speaker, and the highlights, the camera, headphone jack, and the rest is on sort of very great nice with pretty much the best battery life. And that's where I'm gonna stop it. Okay, until next time.